Okay. Hi. Uh, Dheeraj again doing the second revision, the chapter number two. It's the Constitution 101st Amendment Act 2016. So, in this chapter, basically, I'll be revising first of all the concept. Why is this a chapter? Secondly, I'll be revising some of the sections of this act that this chapter consists of. Major sections are like 246A, 269A, 279A, 246 and 7 schedule, uh, and the final union list, state list, and concurrent list that is applicable on us now, after all the amendments, after the implementation of the GST. Okay, so the introduction part. So, see, as per my understanding, it's our constitution and our laws, the acts that we use to refer, the Companies Act, the Income Tax Act, the now the CGST Act, and all the GST acts, other ones. So, what the difference between the constitution and the acts, legally speaking? One of the differences is that making an amendment to an act has a procedure, and making some amendments to the constitution uh, is a different procedure, and it is it has, you see, there are more control over making a change in the constitution because it is more relevant in comparison to the acts. So in order to make any amendment to the constitution, a separate act has to be formed. You see, in order to change any act, we just have to, either if there is the facility of, or there is the power to any government or any governmental body has been given, that if they can just post a notification and they have the power to change some rate or some procedures by giving notifications, they do that just like that. They can change the current law. uh, some points they have to change through the budget. That is absolutely a different procedure for that. There are, for changing the constitution, they have to form a totally different act, and that act is commonly, I mean, every time when they make a change, it names as the Constitution Act. And in 2016, they passed a Constitution Act in which they made some changes to the Constitution of India. You see, the base of our country. And in that change, what they have overally dealt with is they changed some uh, powers, some parts. In some parts, state government was given power to collect the taxes, and it had power to collect the taxes in certain area, and in certain area, central government had power. In other certain areas, both of them had powers. Now that total distribution was reorganized through this amendment in order to be in line with the GST requirement. Now that's that. I think that is the whole introduction part. You see, this act was made and it came to force on 12th of September 2016, and sections were uh, brought into force on 16th of September 2016. All right. Okay. Being Straightly coming to the point, let me go to the sections each one by one. I'll not be revising every section in detail. Those are not important. Major sections I'll be revising in detail. Some of the sections which are not that important, I'll be just going through. Section number 2 of this act, the Constitution Act, introduces the article number 246A. In 246A, what they have done is GST on intra supplies, the state government has power. GST on inter supplies, central government has power. GST on intra and GST on inter. What do I mean by that? Intra is in between, in the state. You know, for example, like in Delhi, from Chandni Chowk, I purchased some goods from my company, which is situated in Noida, and well, suppose not Noida, suppose Basundara, say Ghaziabad. In that case, the Delhi government has power there to collect the tax. That power is given to the state through Article number 246A. Now, in the same way, suppose somebody from Himachal purchased something from Delhi, and his company is based in Himachal. Basically, he's registered under GST and address of Himachal, right? In that case, the GST there, the center has the power to collect the tax. Third point under this article is there are some products, the five petroleum products specifically, on that the recommendation is yet to be made by the council regarding who has the final power. Currently, the what is happening, I'll be discussing that with article number 246, that is yet to come. So basically 246A says these three broad things. First was union, I'm sorry, GST on the intra supplies, the state will be having the power. GST on inter supplies, the center will be having the powers. And GST for the five petroleum products, which are specific ones. There was some issue at the time of formation of GST and implementation of GST laws. And because of that, it is yet to be recommended that who will be having the final powers to collect the taxes for these five petroleum products. Now, some of the auxiliary sections, I mean, they're not important for CA final at least, so I'm not focusing on them. But just like that, those are like if something comes up afterwards and is not there in state list, it is not there in concurrent list either, then central will be automatically having the power. This is a kind of residuary uh, section. So new words that I have said is one straight list, one is concurrent list. Uh, well, another one is union list. These three lists exist in our constitution. What it says is it divides power between state and center. Just like a couple of minutes ago, before I said that some for some products the state has power, for some product the center has power, for some product both have power. Now these three categories are known as the list in which the state has power, that is state list in which center has power, that is union list, the list in which both have power, both the central government and the state government, that is called the concurrent list. Okay. One of the other auxiliary points sections is state government when has power in certain area, if it needs, may request the central government to form a law for it. If it is not able to do it, it wants it the work to be done by the center, for fluency or for any other reason. It can. There is that section. Okay, stamp duty. One of the other sections is stamp duty. Stamp duty is basically levied by the central government, but it is collected by the state government. It is made like that. The levy is done by the central government, but state government collects it. Okay. Let me come down to next important section, that is section number 9 of the Constitution, 101st Amendment Act 2016, which consists of Article 269A. Now, in 269A, excuse me, in 269A, the power is given something like this. The IGST collected by the central government, it will be distributed. It says the IGST will be distributed among states and union territories as recommended by the GST Council. Now, why it has to be distributed? That is the concept. So, the crux of this is, you see, there is only two types of tax. One is CGST, one is SGST. IGST is nothing but a bundle of both CGST and SGST. This is a great mechanism through which the cascading effect has been, dealt with. What they have done is, when it is absolutely clear, when it is a intra transaction, in that case, you charge CGST and SGST. You pay CGST to the central, you pay SGST to the state government. But when it is a inter transaction, transaction between two states, in that case, it becomes difficult whom to pay, how to pay. So what the government have done is, if you are in a situation in which it is an inter transaction, what you have to do is you have to pay IGST, which would be equal to the total of CGST and SGST. It is nothing but a bundle. It is just paid to the central government. Afterwards, central government, what it does, it segregates the IGST between the states. That's what has been included in the constitution in article number 269A. Anyways, so some other points which are has their own logic in 269A are, you see, amount apportioned to the state from the IGST, that amount, it cannot be included in the consolidated fund of the center of India. Now, what's this consolidated fund of India? I'll be discussing it in just a couple of minutes afterwards. Suppose IGST was paid by my supplier. So basically, when I purchased the goods and I paid some amount, it included IGST. So I have IGST ITC, input tax credit, right? And I utilize that amount, suppose for SGST. I mean, when I sold that product in my market, in my state, that is an intra transaction, I had to pay SGST out of it. Because of that, I utilized the IGST in SGST. And if you think of the IGST that I utilized, it has went, sorry, it has gone to the center, but I'm utilizing that amount for the payment of SGST, which has to be paid to the state government. You see, what happens is I am taking a credit of something I have paid to the central government for something that I have to pay to the state government. Now, for that purpose, there is a line in Constitution in Article number 269A, which says if anybody in India has utilized the credit of IGST for the payment of the SGST, it has to be given back to the state, respective state. And that amount will not be, again, will not be included in the consolidated fund of India. Vice versa. Suppose I purchased something intra, I had SGST input tax credit. I sold in inter, my liability was IGST. I utilized the SGST in payment of IGST. In that case, that SGST amount that has been deposited with the state, that actually belongs to the center, because I'm the taxpayer who is utilizing that SGST for the payment of IGST. So that SGST will not form part of the consolidated fund of that state. Not India. I didn't say India will not be part of consolidated fund of that state. I'll be discussing it. What is this consolidated fund of India? When a particular transaction is to be inter, when it has to be intra, what is the origin of a transaction, what is the destination of a transaction, what all will be included in the supply, these all things will be defined by central government. This power has been given to the central government through the article number 2698. Now, you see, consolidated fund of India, let me discuss that now. Suppose a person pays some amount to central government through tax. Suppose a person pays certain amount to the state government. Central government, for example, income tax, for example, central excise duty, for example, customs, for example, CGST, to state government, for example, SGST, VAT, etc. When they pay that amount, what do? They have a particular fund in which they include that amount. That fund is called Consolidated Fund of India in case of central government, Consolidated Fund of State in case of the state governments. Now, what happens is the central government, out of its IGST, pays certain portion as recommended by the council to the state government and the union territories, which will not be included in the Consolidated Fund of India. The rest amounts of the central government will be included in the Consolidated Fund of India. Out of those, out of the Consolidated Fund of India, 42% of it will be distributed among the states. Again, 42% among all the states. That's what happens. That's how the government works. It distributes the money among the states for their budgets. So that's the Consolidated Fund of India concept. Okay. One of the other sections, not very important, is central government has the power to charge surcharge on any tax You see, in on income tax, we have surcharge on many cases. For example, in case of individual, if the total income goes above 1 crore, then we have to pay the surcharge. Uh, but but the power has not been given in case of GST. So in no case surcharge can be charged in GST. Okay, we have come to the 279A article, which is section 12, which says everything about GST Council. What is GST Council? A lot of times GST Council name has come up in this Constitution Amendment Act. So what is this GST Council? GST Council is something like a body which recommends or in constant touch, in very simple language, is in constant touch with the government information of the GST laws, in making changes to it in order to reach their objective, in order to make it more fluent, make it perfect in all the ways. They make changes all the time. And the GST Council is always connected with the government in order to recommend something. Lots of powers has been given to the GST Council. Just for example, I was saying the five petroleum products. The details will be recommended by the GST Council afterwards, and only then and only then those will be final. Okay, the GST Council will be constituted. Has already been constituted on 12th September 2016. It consists of Union Finance Minister, who would be the chairperson, the Union Ministers of States in charge of revenue or the finance will be the members, Minister in charge of finance or taxation or other minister nominated. They will again be the members also. The members among themselves will choose the vice chairman. So this is the basic construction, right? I had to see what do they do? I mean, what do the exactly what do they do? The GST Council, they recommend. What do they recommend? They recommend about the tax says surcharge to be subsumed. When the GST was being formed, some taxes were to be subsumed into the GST. I mean, they had to be done with. They had to be striked off of our world. And which ones exactly is to be subsumed? Who will recommend that? The GST Council will recommend that. Uh, uh, Model GST law, it was prepared by the GST Council first. The threshold limits, who will be taxed, who will not be taxed. No, the threshold limit is in itself is a great concept. You see, threshold limit is something like what should be the basic exemption below which nobody will be charged the GST. For example, in income tax, it's 2,50,000. If you are making an income which is less than 2,50,000, you don't have to pay tax. You don't have to. You don't have to file returns. You can file returns voluntarily, but you don't have to do it. Just like that, in GST, the GST Council has the power to recommend a value below which nobody will be charged the GST. That is called the threshold limit, which has been fixed to be 20 lakhs and 10 lakhs. When I say 20 lakhs and 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs is for all, and 10 lakhs is for some specific states. Those states are, I have made a shortcut for that, just and Aham. Just J for Jammu and Kashmir, U for Uttarakhand, uh, just like that others. Okay, anyways. Um, They'll also recommend any special rule rates, specified period, specified provisions for hilly states, any other matters also. They also recommend what is to be done with the five petroleum products. Again, it's coming again and again, the same thing. Okay. The GST Council mm, will have its meetings, right? Now, when there are meetings, there has to be votes. There are lots of people. There are people from states. There are some people from center. So, what should be the quorum? What should be the voting procedure? How the decisions are to be taken? Those are the quorum will be the one half of the total members. The proposals which are made before the council, those will be passed only if 75% of the vote has been received. This 75%, how this percentage will be calculated, this is one of the major points, the tricky points of this article. It says that the vote of central government, you see, there is only one person who is representing central government. There are 31 people who are representing the state governments. So if it's equally distributed, the voting power has, if it is equally distributed among those 32 people, then the states will do what they want, right? So because of that, the central government has been given a weightage of one third, and the state governments has been given a weightage of two third. So percentage of the central government will be multiplied by one third. The percentage of the state governments which approve of a proposal will be multiplied by two third, and both will be aggregated. That will be compared with the 75%. If it exceeds the 75%, then the proposal is passed. One point has been included here is about the proceedings of the GST Council. You see, this is kind of a safe, uh, suppose you can say like a spell that saves the decisions of this council from any future issue. Now, what's that? Suppose there is some kind of mistake in appointment of a member, and after the appointment, the some decisions were taken by the council. Now somebody will question the decision because your appointment was wrong, and on his vote you have taken that decision. How can that decision be affecting the whole country? Now that is done with this addition in this article. It says that the decision, the proceedings of the GST Council will be valid in spite of any defect in the appointment, any irregularity, any vacancy or defect in the constitution, etc., etc. Anyways, this is all about the Article 269, 279A. I'm sorry. Let me move on to some other sections, which are like the state will not impose tax on supply outside the state or import or export. So this is basically your power. The interstate transactions will be taxed by the central government, and the state will not have the power. Specifically, it has been mentioned here. One of the other points is the local bodies. Local bodies, when I say, I mean to say autonomous district, the district council basically. It will collect, I mean, before it was also collecting the tax on performance, trades, call, employment, vehicles, boats, entry of goods, tolls, maintenance of schools, dispensaries, goods, entertainment, amusements. These are also existing today. The District council is still imposing the tax and collecting them from these categories even today. Article 246 and 7 schedule, it has made some amendment. Some amendments have been made to the state list, union list, and concurrent list, like I was discussing before. The final, after all the changes, the final state list, concurrent list, and uh, union list that affects the GST part are something like this. On the union list, we have excise on the five petroleum products, the inter transactions of those products only, not intra. Intra has been given to the state list. The inter transaction, I mean the transaction between two states relating to these five petroleum products have been included in the union list, but the GST part is yet to be levied on this on the recommendation of the uh, GST Council afterwards. But currently, these are being taxed under central excise duty. Customs is under the powers of union list. Um, One more is the interstate sale, except something is there. Previously, the CST, Central Sales Tax, was covered here. It's still here. It has not been struck off. Other matters are also there. Under the state list, we have the five petroleum products for their intra transactions. If you're having any transaction, any supply for those five petroleum products in between the state, in between inside a particular state from a place to another place in the same state, then you'll be paying tax to the state government. Okay. Entertainment, amusement by the local bodies, those are still included in the state list. Alcohol for human consumption, opium, hemp, drugs for these state list is still there, and it charges its tax on that these products. This has a story behind it. You see, alcohol and these products have huge tax on them. It gives huge amount of benefit to the government. Now, the state governments, when the negotiation was going on, they denied to let go of it. They said this is one of the major sources of our income. We're not going to let you take it away from us. So it's still there, and on these products, the state government charges its taxes, own taxes. Sale of electricity, goods and passengers, vehicles, animals, boat, tolls, profession, stamp duty. These are also in the state list. Under the concurrent list, transfer of property, registration, deed, contracts, not included the agricultural land, of course. These are some of the points. Some of the other sections, which are something like this: central government will pay compensation to the states as recommended by the GST Council for loss of revenue for 5 years. Now, what is this? It's something like this. When the negotiation was going on about implementation of GST for bringing GST into India, the states raised a point. What if our revenue decreases? The revenue that we are making before indirect, before this period. What if we earn less? What then? So center came to this idea that we are making this change in the constitution of India. If you earn less, I will be paying for it for 5 years. That's what they have included here. The next point says any laws not consistent with the GST continue to be in force until the amendment made to it or 1 year from the commencement of this GST Acts, whichever is earlier. Not very important. I'm not going a little bit deep into it. In case of any difficulty, if any difficulty arises afterwards, the president has the power to make provisions uh, through an order, and this order will be shown in before both parliament houses. And this power is valid only till 3 years of the commencement of GST. So after that, it cannot be done. So this is kind of residuary provision that has been included. I don't think it will ever come in force. It's basically if there is some kind of issue, some states raised, or something which cannot be solved right away, then the president has the power to make some provisions, make some changes, as he feels necessary, and he'll show that in front of the to the parliament houses, and there, if it is approved, it can come into force, those changes. Anyways, that's all about the Constitution Act 2016. uh, Probably the next chapter, I'll be a little late in making the next chapter. Okay, that's all for right now. Thank you very much.